Hello, insomniacs, fellow night owls. Or maybe you're an overnight driver, maybe security somewhere, or at the plant. Anyone pulling the graveyard. Welcome to the night shift. Volume 2, here we go. These are once again taken from a Reddit thread asking night shifters, third shifters to leave their scary, unexplained, weird, funny, or even boring stories from what they experienced at work. We're going to jump right into it with number 1, submitted by the Gay Alaskan, and they state, I work at a cafe in downtown. Quite a few homeless shelters in range, and a huge drug problem. One day I'm working behind the bar, and this redhead kid, probably in his early 20s, sits down in our seating area and starts chanting shit under his breath. And after a minute or two, he starts moving his hands around like he's casting a spell. He then gets up, starts yelling and disturbing everyone. I walk over to him and tell him he needs to leave for the day. The dude looks me straight in the eye and says, "This is all a giant game. I'll fucking kill you with one finger." And at this point, whatever, I get death threats a lot down here, no biggie. Shoo him on out his way, and that's that. So, fast forward to when we're closing up around 9 p.m. Not technically night shift, but it gets dark up here, so it counts. I lock the doors and start heading to the parking garage my car is in. It's probably 6 blocks away. No big deal. Winter up here is insanely dark, so it's already pretty creepy in downtown. About a block or two walking, I hear this hissing noise. I freak the fuck out because I can't see anyone around. I pick up the pace a bit. Then I hear hurried footsteps in the snow behind me. Well, fuck that. I booked it to the staircase for the garage because I wasn't going to wait for the elevator. I'm about a staircase up, and I hear the door I just went through slam shut. I finally make it to my car and get in as fast as possible. I look around, and lo and behold, there's the redhead from earlier, only this time he's fucking furious. He sees me in the car and books at full speed and starts hitting my window screaming, "I'm going to fucking kill you!" I door checked him and drove the fuck away. Called the cops the next morning, and they found the dude. Apparently, he thinks he's the Illuminati and completely corroborated my story to the police. Small jail time and 1 restraining order later, never seen him again. Shit like this happens a lot. Got chased to my car by a crazy redhead wizard in the Illuminati because I told him he had to calm down and leave for the day. What the hell? Okay, next up. This is submitted by Deleted, and they state, I used to work at a pub that was 2 miles from my house. My shift ended at about 11 one night, and I stayed there for a couple of drinks and then started walking home. Now, this had been an exceptional night for me tip-wise, and I had close to $400 in cash on me at the time. Between the pub and my house was exactly 1 street light about a quarter mile from the pub. The rest of the walk was in complete darkness. And this was a dark night, too. It was close to the new moon and cloudy to boot, so it was almost pitch black. And now I live out in the boonies, so there isn't much light pollution to help out. Not long after I leave the pub, a car slowly drives by me. About a quarter mile down the road, the car slows to a stop, and it just sits there. I stop walking, and I watch the car. It sits for a few more minutes, and then slowly drives away. A couple of minutes later, the same car comes slowly driving back by me in the opposite lane. It gets by me, drives a bit down the road, and slows to a stop again. Then it does a U-turn and starts creeping back down the road towards me with the lights off. Now at this point, I'm fucking terrified. I don't have a cell phone at the time. There's no one around to see what's going on. The car's between me and the pub, so I can't get back to the safety there. And my house is still about 1.5 miles away, so I can't get to safety there. I quickly run off the road into the woods and duck down behind a bush. And I watch for the car, but it's too dark to see it with the lights off and the bushes and trees and undergrowth between me and the road. I sit there for about 10 minutes, but I don't see or hear anything. And I'm about to make my way back to the road when I hear car doors closing. Now I'm really panicking, and it feels like my chest is about to explode. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up, and I keep imagining someone sneaking up behind me. I stay hidden and hope to God whoever is doesn't find me. And I don't know how long I stayed there, but I eventually hear car doors again, then cars passing by. I give it a couple of minutes and then ease back to the road. When I see it's clear, I haul ass back to the pub and let my boss know what happened. He said then and there that I'm never to walk home at night again. Either him or his brother or his mom will give me a lift home. And when the other servers and the kitchen staff hear what happened, they all said the same thing. Never been that terrified before. Okay, this one is submitted by Jim Bozak, and he says, I had a similar situation happen to me a couple of years ago. It was close to 10 o'clock, and my roommates and I were out on the town. I had to stop at the bank for some cash. By this time, Montana standards anyway, most businesses were already shut up and the parking lot was a bit darker than normal. Well, my roommates thought it would be funny that while I was in the enclosed section of the bank grabbing my cash to hide the car behind a snowbank. I waltz out of the bank, and what the fuck, right? So I walk a bit, not really paying much attention to shit, walk past the Wendy's, and right after I do, I notice a truck is very weirdly following me. They were driving an old beat-up truck, but I didn't pay much mind to it. Well, I was getting closer to the even darker parking lot of Costco, and the truck was still following me. I was starting to become panicked. Well, they drove past me. I turned around and hauled ass over to Dark Corner by Lowe's. The truck was slowly driving around the block, as if it were looking for me. And it was strange and it was terrifying. They passed by again, and then I finally saw my roommate's car. I jumped in and fucking yelled at him to drive. I just got weird vibes from the whole thing, and was sure glad that nothing happened. This next one is from Mom's Day Prepper, and they state, I know you don't do this anymore, but for anybody with a similar work situation, this is how you ask to get robbed. You work a tip-heavy job at a well-known local establishment, and you have a pattern of walking home alone at night along a poorly lit route. It wouldn't take scum more than 2 or 3 nights of seeing you to sniff out the opportunity. If you're a bartender, waitstaff, or otherwise visible tipped role at the establishment that is busy on weekends, find ways to protect yourself. Get rides home, pepper spray, tasers, switch routes. Got too many friends who were robbed for every dime they made on a shift, and even some who got beat and stabbed just for some bread in their pocket doing this. I tried to warn them, but nobody ever thinks it'll happen to them, which is exactly why it will. Good advice. Good advice. Here is one from Grumpy Gills, and he states, I also used to work overnights in a restaurant. Not necessarily creepy, but definitely terrifying. I was waiting a table, and I'm facing them, and behind them I can see out the giant window. A car barrels around the corner and goes up on the curb and immediately gets pulled over, and I thought, that sucks, but you're a dumbass anyways. Well, next thing I know, the guy gets out of his car. As the officer is walking up to the window, I can faintly hear shouting, and then I heard several gunshots. I used to be an RA in college, and had to take a short day course on active shooter training. I kicked into gear, screamed at my manager to call 911. moved the family I was waiting on to the other side of the restaurant behind a brick wall, grabbed the people loitering in the parking lot, brought them inside, locked the doors, waited for the police. Being a small town and that my restaurant was a couple of blocks from the hospital, the police got there fast. An officer was shot, and the shooter was shot multiple times as well, and they were both taken in an ambulance. The officer who was shot was in his first year, in his early 20s. He was not fatally injured and was able to go home a couple of days later. The shooter and the passenger in his car are both being charged with attempted murder of a police officer. This was back in August, and no trial details or anything yet, but it was definitely a scary moment. And now, we're going to end with this one submitted by Dick Hole Supreme. He states, I worked at a Walmart overnight for a while, and every single Friday night, without fail, this old woman with 2 children would come in around 10, 11 p.m. She was obnoxiously loud as she shopped. She grabbed a bunch of different things and stuffed it all in her cart a few times, asking one of her employees to help her grab something. And every Friday night it was the same thing. Her talking voice was her yelling, and stayed in the store sometimes until 5 a.m. I worked 10 to 7. She grabbed a cart full of stuff, which seemed like it was from every section of the store. She would do this with her 2 girls, and the weirdest part wasn't even that. It was the fact that she would leave her cart somewhere and walk out with nothing. Spent hours in the store grabbing a bunch of shit with her 2 kids, and walked out without anything. Every Friday. I never figured out why. It's not creepy scary, it's more creepy weird. There was also a creepy sad time where this woman was shopping and she was obviously fucked up on drugs. Her face showed it. She was basically unresponsive to anyone and anything as she walked through the store. I only saw her once walking by with her kid. He was about 7, saying things like, "Hey, can you hear me? It's me. Why aren't you talking to me?" and stuff like that. Really sad. But yes, those are my overnight stories, and I don't work there anymore. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you real soon.